Morning, Trainiacs. Prescription for today is pain, because we are about to go through a guided heart rate ramp test where I'm going to take you through building you up to a max heart rate. We're going to take the results from that heart rate test. I'm going to give you a calculator for how you can calculate all of your heart rate training zones, your recovery zone, your peak zones, and then I'm going to tell you how to take all of those zones and use them going forward. It's not going to be as pleasant as I make it sound. It's going to hurt. All right, Trainiacs, I'm going to give you about a minute to get set up on your bike, and then we will start the test. Some things that you need to know to prepare for this. Do this test after at least a rest day or maybe even towards the end of a rest week. You need to be very fresh. You can't be doing this with tired legs or your legs will give out before your heart maxes out. Second thing, have a water bottle very handy. You don't want to dehydrate yourself throughout this because you are going to sweat a lot, bring your heart rate up so much. Next, if you don't have a heart rate zone calculator yet, and ours is a little bit different than some of the ones you might have out there, go to triathlonterran.com/HR training, and the calculator will be there and will give you a program for how to use all of the data from that calculator. Also, get yourself some wicked good tunes because this is gonna hurt. I recommend the Triathlon Terran training playlist on Spotify, all right? Get ready because I'll take you through this. All right, so let's get started here. Get on whatever bike you've got. It can be an indoor bike trainer like I've got set up here, or it can even be a spin bike or a stationary bike at the gym. Doesn't really matter. As long as you have the ability to check your heart rate, that's the most important. So even if you don't have a heart rate monitor, to have those grips that are on a stationary bike at most gyms, that'll work just fine. You just need a way to monitor your heart rate. I've got Zwift set up here. You don't have to be on Zwift, but I just like it because the interface in the top left corner gives me my heart rate and power data, and I don't want to have to look at a watch or look down at a bike computer. So just having that in the top left corner is what I like to have, but it's not like this is a Zwift proprietary heart rate test. Now, what we are going to do should take you less than 40 minutes. We're gonna start with this 10-minute easy spin right now just to get the blood flowing, and then we are going to go into a 10-minute prep. And that prep is going to get our heart rate up close to a working beats per minute. We're gonna go 4 minutes at just a slightly increased difficulty from this spin, 3 minutes, even a little bit harder, 2 minutes, back down because we don't wanna be tired when we get into the actual protocol, and then 1 minute at building to a high heart rate. After that, we're gonna take 3 minutes just to flush the lactic acid out of our legs, and then we'll start the heart rate protocol, which is going to be a ramp test where every single minute, starting from a very easy effort, the difficulty gets a little bit harder. What's gonna happen is usually somewhere in between about 13 and 20 minutes, your heart rate is going to max out, and even though you might be able to increase the wattages or the perceived exertion, you're not going to be able to increase your heart rate. And that is where your max bike heart rate is. We'll take that information, punch it into the calculator that I'm going to give you by going to triathlonterran.com/HR zones. And from that, I'll give you some guidance on how to generate your zones and then which zones you should spend a lot of time training in. All of that is free. Just got to go through a little bit of pain. So I'm not going to talk a ton throughout this test. I'll guide you through it. So get in some good tunes. Just have me in your earbuds guiding you through it so that you know how to do the protocol. But otherwise, Let's get at it. All right, we have another about 6.5 minutes left of this easy spin. Get at it. Warm-up should be somewhere around a 2 or 3 on a perceived exertion. We're looking just at zone 1 or so. Nothing too taxing at all. Literally just getting the body moving. Shouldn't feel like you're tiring yourself out. You want to save all that energy for the main work. Just under 4 minutes left until we start prepping. All right, it's gonna be 1 minute until we start the prep. The first 4 minutes of the prep session is gonna be at zone 2. Still not very difficult. We're just bringing it up from a rate of perceived exertion on a scale of 1 to 10, just somewhere around 4 or 5. Should feel just a touch challenging, but not difficult by any stretch of the imagination. Just want to bring our heart rate slowly up without tiring ourselves out before the protocol starts. So we're bringing it up to that zone 2, starting the prep in 2, 1, go. Shift up, maybe just 1 gear or 2 at the most from what you're at during the early spin. 4 minutes at this. Just stay steady. If you start feeling tired whatsoever, maybe it's not your day and you need to do it another day, or you could be going a little bit too hard. Let's go. All right, we've got 30 seconds until we're gonna pick it up for 3 minutes to a zone 3. That is a perceived exertion of somewhere in between about 5 and 7. This is gonna be slightly challenging. It's okay for this to feel a little bit difficult, but don't bring it to the point where it's feeling difficult that it's a lot of work. It should be like comfortably difficult. Think of it like that. And 1,
All right, bring it up to a zone 3 here for 3 minutes. Comfortably difficult. All right, bring it back down to zone 2 for 2 minutes. Small lower recovery. Rate of perceived exertion, just 4 or 5. You're gonna recover just slightly, flush out some of the lactic acid from that 3-minute zone 3 effort. Make sure that we're fresh. Nice little spin here. All right, in 30 seconds, we're gonna bring it up to zone 4 for just 1 minute. This is gonna feel difficult. We're not talking max effort. You're also not starting at zone 4. We're gonna start bringing it up when we start the minute. We're gonna end the minute at zone 4 for the last 20 seconds or so. Don't empty the tank here, just a gradual progression up to difficult. 3, 2, 1 minute. All right, pick it up a little bit.
Heart in hand, but baby, heart in hand, but baby.
20 seconds left. Should be at zone 4 effort now. Fairly difficult.
I wanna be right where you are. I promise you the sky and the stars.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, you're gonna have 3 minutes of spinning at a zone 2 effort. Almost always do zone 2 as opposed to zone 1 for the recovery intervals during a workout, because it's actually better to flush lactic acid at zone 2 than at zone 1. Zone 1 isn't quite intense enough to get that flushing of the lactic acid, which is what's going to slow us down. So we want to flush that out for a few minutes here. When the protocol starts, we are going to start at a very easy effort. Very easy. We're talking small chain ring, smallest or second smallest cog. Don't worry about it feeling too easy, because it's going to get hard soon enough. So when we start, don't start at a difficult effort. It should feel basically like it is right now at a zone 2. And it's going to start getting quite difficult shortly thereafter. So just spin here, nice and easy. Zone 2, about a 3, 4 out of 10 on the rate of perceived exertion. And when we start the protocol in just over a minute, it's still going to be at that 3 or 4 to start with. And then every minute I'll prompt you to increase the difficulty and the speed by just a little bit. If you're using a power meter, just a little bit means only about 10 to 15 watts. If you don't have a power meter and you're just on your bike, we're talking 1 gear, maybe 2. Do 2 if it feels like you are way behind and after 7 or 8 minutes your heart rate still isn't rising. If you're on just a stationary bike at the gym, just kind of think, what's about 5% faster? We're gonna start it in just over 30 seconds. I'm gonna turn on my tunes and do the suffering with you, but I'll call out your minutes. So get your tunes ready. It's gonna start right away. What you're looking to do is when your heart rate levels out or your body gives out, whichever happens first, that's your max heart rate, and we'll use that. So remember that number. Going in under 10. 3, 2, 1, start. Not much more difficult now, but just get mentally prepared. Let's go. 1 minute coming up, a little bit faster now, go. Three, two, one, increase speed. Should be at somewhere around 4 or 5. As you start increasing difficulty, try to keep that cadence nice and high, over 85. Anything lower than that, you're mashing on the pedals. You're taking the difficulty off your heart, putting it on your muscles, and you're not going to get that heart rate up high enough. So keep that cadence up above 85 revolutions per minute. Up again in 3, 2, 1, increase. Going up again in 2, 1, a little bit harder. A little faster now. A little faster. A little faster in 3, 2, 1. Should be fairly difficult now, not hard, but just good and challenging. Three, 2, 1, go! When you pick it up, if your cadence is dropping, don't increase resistance, just increase cadence. Pick it up. Let's go, come on, pick it up now. Having to dig deep here, come on. Picking it up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Come on, more. One more. Let's go. All right, 5 seconds. Push for one more. Come on. That's me, keep going though. Once you're done, just spin easy for 3 minutes. For anyone who's still going, I'll urge you on for another few. All right, pick it up. 3, 2, 1, go. Come on, keep pushing. Whoever's out there, keep pushing. You're an animal. Get that heart rate up, however you have to. Go one more in 3, 2, 1. Come on, Trainiacs, if you're still going, keep pushing. You're doing great. Being a total badass. Keep going. If and when you finish the protocol and you finish a 3-minute spin down, go to this spot in the video where I will talk about how to use that heart rate number. But if you're still going, don't let up. Get everything out of yourself that you can. Three, 2, 1. Keep going. You're amazing if you are getting past this. Keep going. Get that heart rate up. Go until your heart rate can't go anymore. Keep going. Keep pushing if you're still going. Keep pushing. Keep going. If you're still going, 3, 2, 1, faster. Let's go. All right, we'll give you 1 more minute if you're still going. If you're that kind of animal, you're going again in now. Go. Push as hard as you can. Everything out of yourself that you can get. Go. Go. All right, if you're still going, you know the drill. Get everything out of yourself that you can. Push, increasing in 3, 2, 1, go. Go until your heart rate levels out or your body gives out. Once you're done, settle in for 3 minutes easy, and then come back to us. We'll tell you how to use that heart rate data. But everyone should be just about done now. Good job, Trainiacs, good job.
Okay, so that is going to require just a little bit of a session in the recovery boots. Yeah. That's gonna leave a mark. Okay, so let me walk you through that sheet that automatically generates your training zones, and it is probably a little bit different than anything you've got online because I've made a little bit of tweaks to it for the practicalities of that test and our training. All right. Okay, so if you don't have this yet, like I said, go to triathlonterran.com/HR training. Download this, and what you do is you start by entering everything that's in white here. So we're going to do this based off of my training right now. So I am 36 years old. And then how we generate the zones isn't just off a percentage of the heart rate from that test. I use the Maffetone method of training, which actually takes in a little bit of the history of your training over the last couple of years. So have you had an illness lasting more than 3 weeks in the past year, or do I take regular medication? No. In the last year, have I had more than 2 colds lasting more than 3 days, or had an injury that's caused me to alter training? Yes, I have had to alter training. Have you been training consistently and not experienced any of the issues above for the past 2 years? No, because I answered yes here. Of course, that's going to be no. And then my max HR test result is 176. So I input that. Then everything that is customized for you is in yellow below. What we have here is your heart rate ceiling. And if I knew how to spell ceiling, that would help. My heart rate ceiling is the max heart rate for our Maffetone method of training. And this is what we're going to use as a top end of zone 2. I'm going to show you something down here. Zone 1 and 2 is where about 80% of your training is going to occur. Now, there are some training methods like 80-20 training where what they'll say is they recommend that your top end of zone 2 is actually 75% of your maximum heart rate. Now, I believe, and I actually know this for a fact, that the test we did there probably doesn't generate your max potential heart rate. It's very hard to motivate yourself to that point of like absolute sheer failure. Also, we aren't holding up our body weight while we are doing that test. So even if we were just to go the same difficulty running, our heart rate would be about 5 to 10% higher. And I'll tell you why I know this for a fact. What I've calculated here is a max theoretical run heart rate, which is 7% higher than what just happened in that test, 188. Now I look back at my Training Peaks account and I know for a fact that the max my heart rate has ever gone is actually 188. So this is starting to pull in the practicalities of training, and just saying that that test is the be all end all and calculating all of our zones off of that doesn't make sense. Now, let's get back to zone 2. What, say, the book 80-20 training will say is instead of using Maffetone heart rate for the top end of your zone 2, they will say, well, let's actually take your max heart rate overall and multiply that by 0.75. And that is going to be the top of your zone 2. Well, what does that get us to? 141. Basically the same as the 139 of the Maffetone method, but we go back towards the Maffetone method because that starts bringing in additional factors with just a few questions and your age. It starts becoming a little bit more practical. So we use that as the top end of zone 2. And then beyond that, we start just using, instead of just calculating percentages of that 176, we say, you know what? Because you could have pushed yourself a little bit more, and most people can, we are going to just increase it by about 2.5%. So we're going to take 176 and calculate all of the zones off of 2.5% greater than that number, assuming that we could have pushed just a little bit harder, but the nature of the test doesn't really allow us to. So there are your zones. Another thing that I'm going to add in here right now is if we take 220 minus your age, and we are going to put that in red, and this will be in the calculator that you download. If your max heart rates are a long way away from that, let's say you did the test and you only got to 160, 155, A, you need to get mentally tougher, or B, there's a lot of room that you can improve. So it's a sign that you have a lot of room to grow. So we'll give you that as a bit of a guideline. Because 176 and 178 is kind of right around that theoretical 220 minus your age max heart rate that I should be able to attain, I'm quite happy with that. Now over here we have some descriptions about the amount of time that you spend in these, and Here, let me just stop this and we'll get into that. Now, what you will see in that plan is that there is an area of the heart rate zone. Zone 3 is called the gray area. This is a heart rate zone that is not hard enough to make you faster, make you stronger, but it's also not slow enough to build up your aerobic system. So we call that the gray area, and I've indicated that there's actually a fairly small amount of time that you spend in there, basically just the last few weeks of sharpening for a race. When you start getting into race season, you spend little bits of time in that gray area, but you don't want to spend a lot there. Even going into that gray area for a little bit is enormously more taxing on your body than being in zone 2. Zone 2 builds up a ton of efficiency. It starts tapping into our fat reserves. It starts making our cardiovascular system very, very strong. Zone 1 we use for complete recovery workouts, warm-ups, cool downs, that's about it. But zone 2 is really our meat and potatoes. We want to spend somewhere around 50 to 60% of our total yearly training time in that zone 2. We spend about 15% of our yearly training time in zone 4, about 5% in zone 5, and not a ton in that zone 3. So go to triathlonterran.com/HR training. You can download not just this plan, but I'll also give you a series of emails that are giving you guidances for how to actually use this spreadsheet and the amounts of time that you should be spending in them, the types of workouts that you should be using these heart rate zones, and this is how you can start guiding your training. Also, a lot of Team Trainiac is based off of this. So if you like what you get at triathlonterran.com/HR training, go to triathlonterran.com/team waitlist, and most of the workouts that we have and all of the training build and structure is all automated with all of this in mind. This is just one part of it that you've got to do. So I hope you don't hate me after that workout. And later, Trainiacs. Oh, and if you aren't yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button below. More pain to come.